Hi, and thanks for joining. If you're new here, I'm Wendy and this is Nina's Jewels. My husband and I buy things at garage sales, flea markets, thrift stores, just about anywhere we can find things to sell online and flip for a profit. If that's content you're interested in, you're in the right place. Today's video is going to be what sold for the week of October 8th through 14th. Let's get started. The first thing we sold was a pack of 2 replacement laser toner cartridges for a Brother printer. We got these in a big liquidation lot of off-brand toner cartridges from someone who owns a toner store here locally who was offloading some of his old merchandise. I had purchased each of the toners for $3.19, so our cost of goods on these 2 were $6.38, and this pack of 2 sold for our full asking price of $36.99. Next up was a brand new sealed DVD of the Loretta Young Show. This was a 3-box set of season 1. We got this in the Goodwill bins. One day we were there and there were just a whole bunch of sealed DVDs, probably from a store or something like that. We picked up every single sealed DVD that we could find and we've made tons of money on them. This DVD sold for a full asking price of $17.99 and we had paid $1.41 for it at the bins that day. At the Goodwill bins, you do pay based on weight. I can't remember how much our bins are. I think it's like $1.69 a pound or something like that. We did get positive feedback on this purchase. Next up was a lot of 3 Crate and Barrel Silver Star and Snowflake metal table sprinkles, and they each included a magnet. So it was like metal confetti, and you would decorate your table with it, sprinkle it all over, maybe the centerpiece of your dinner table. And then at the end of the night or at the end of the event, when it was time to clean up, you just took that magnet and ran it across the table, and it would collect all of the metal confetti onto that magnet and you could put it back in the storage bag. It was pretty cool. I had found these at a garage sale, picked them up based on brand. Crate and Barrel is a really good, strong seller for us. We've done really well with it in the past. We paid $4 for those at the garage sale and they sold on best offer for $48. Next up was a Radio Shack set of Learning Morse Code. It was a cassette set, so it was an educational audio cassette. We got this at a thrift store. We paid 35 cents for it, and it sold for $15.18 on offer to buyer, and we got positive feedback on that. We do try to pick up any educational audiobooks that we come across, whether they're on CD or cassette or even old computer educational courses. Those seem to do really well for us, and we will eventually always sell those. Next up was a Fredericks of Hollywood beaded corset. We found this at the Hoarder estate sale. Fredericks of Hollywood is a brand that has a really good sell-through rate, so I knew that when I saw it at the estate sale and picked it up. This corset was in really good condition. It was a boned corset. It had hooks and eyes that you could get in and out of it on the side, but it laced up in the back as well. It sold for $31.98 on offer to buyer. It had a lot of watchers on it. We actually sold it twice, but the first buyer did not pay. I relisted it and it sold again immediately to a second buyer, and we had paid $5 for that at the estate sale. Next up was a vintage Camco brand gold tone and enamel rose engraved brooch, and it said on the back of it, "God's love is with you." We got this at a garage sale. We paid just $1 for it, and it sold for an offer to buyer of $11.98. Brooches is another item I will generally always pick up if they're in good condition. They don't look scratched or damaged in any way because they're so easy to store. They don't take up any space. And even though they're sometimes not very fast movers, we can get them, if I can get them for like $1 or 50 cents, which usually you can, they are a great profit maker. So definitely something worth picking up and just adding to your inventory because those will eventually sell over time and you'll make great money on them, and they are not taking up any space in your inventory area. Next up was something that my husband got at a garage sale. He paid just $1 for it. It wasn't new, but it was in good condition, and it was an easygoing brand brown set of chenille recliner slip covers. So it was all the different parts and pieces that you need to cover a recliner, just a single recliner. And it had all the different slip cover elements that you needed for that. So it had all of the original packaging, but it was definitely used, and he knew that at the time he purchased it. We took it all out, washed it. We made sure that it didn't have any damage. It did show just a tiny bit of wear from use, like slight pilling, but we cleaned that up as best as we could and listed it for a fair price. I think we might have listed it for $23.99 or something like that. I don't remember. Probably you'll see the price on the screen when I put it up over here. And it did eventually sell for an offer to buyer of $18.38. It did take a little while to sell, and it was very, very bulky, so maybe not an item I would pick up again just based on that. Next up was something that belonged to my daughter, and we only sold it because we already owned it. This is not something I would ever pick up if I saw it out in the wild. These were Pick Me Pops Series 3. This was Kuma the Sun Bear and Chomp the Hippo. These, we had no cost associated with them. They were probably a birthday gift to her at one time, and they sold for our full asking price of $11.99. We had these in our store for an extremely long time, years, maybe 3 to 4 years, before they had any interest and eventually sold. Next up was a very nice emerald green wool London Fog full-length trench coat, wool trench coat. And this we found in the Goodwill bins. It was very heavy. If we had actually paid for this item by weight, I don't know how much we would have paid for it, but the way we always do our Goodwill bins purchases is we purchase everything and then we take how much we paid that day and we average it out per listing. So this particular day, our per listing cost based on how much we paid was only 61 cents. We had bought a lot of stuff that day. So considering that was a really good deal. But if we had gone in and just bought that single coat, I don't know, that it was so heavy it would have, cost a lot. And it did take a while to sell. It did not sell the first season we had it. I think it took 2 years to sell. But it did eventually sell on a best offer of $65. And I think it was worth the wait. So I still would have picked that. I still would pick that item up at the Goodwill bins again, for sure. Next up was a brand I had never heard of, and it was a brand called Adorn by the singer Avril Lavigne. So she must have had I don't know where this brand was sold, but she must have had a partnership with a retailer somewhere. These were girls-sized jean shorts. I noticed when I was doing research that this Adorn brand had a great sell-through rate in all styles. So any kind of Adorn items, if you come across them, might be worth picking up. I would probably do a little bit more research before I just started grabbing stuff, all over the place if I saw it. But I did notice that every time I searched that Adorn keyword, everything that I saw was mostly in the solds. So it seems to be a popular item. I don't know, maybe it's not made anymore and people are looking for it. I have not done enough research to know that for sure, so don't quote me on any of that, but I just happened to notice that the sell-through rate on this brand was great. We found these shorts in the storage unit that we purchased for just $30. If you want to check out that video, I'll link it in the description box below. And we had averaged out our cost of goods from that purchase because we had gotten tons of clothes from that unit. So each of our listings only cost 24 cents from that storage unit. So these cost us 24 cents and they sold on offer to buyer for $10.38. So that, even though they didn't sell for much, that was still a great flip because our cost of goods was so low and they sold really, really fast. So Adorn is maybe something I would pick up if I saw it in the future. Next up was another item that we got at the Hoarder estate sale. And this was a Cabby women's aqua tapestry, and I described it as a Jacobean floral Guinevere coat. And it was a beautiful coat. I picked it up because the style of it was just beautiful. Cabby is a brand that sometimes I pick up and sometimes I don't. It just really depends on the style, you know, whether I think it's something that will sell or not. And this was just a gorgeous coat. When I got it home, I realized it was supposed to have a velvet waist tie with it, which we did not have, but I still went ahead and listed it because even without that tie, it was still gorgeous and could easily be worn without it. It didn't originally have any kind of like tie holders that were missing. It just was missing the tie. So it didn't really affect the usability of the coat at all, not having that tie. So anyway, I listed that coat. We had paid $8 for that at the estate sale, and it sold pretty quickly within a couple of weeks for best offer of $50. Next up was a pair of Taylor Bird brand men's big and tall chino shorts. This is not a brand we were familiar with. We picked them up because they looked like a nice brand, but mainly we picked them up because they were big and tall and they were a very large size. And things that are big and tall, and especially things that are a larger size within big and tall, tend to sell well for us. So that's why we picked these up. These were a size 52. So sometimes people are on eBay looking for larger sizes, and larger sizes tend to sell pretty quickly. So we had gotten these at a garage sale. We had paid just $1 for them, and they sold pretty quickly for $22.99, which was our full asking price. Next up was a vintage fossil pebbled black passport holder. It was genuine leather. We got this at an estate sale for $1. It had a lot of watchers. I think I had it priced at $39.99, and it had a lot of watchers for a really long time at that price, but I could not get any movement on it. And so I had gotten a lot of low offers on it, and I kept thinking, you know, it has so many watchers, I'm going to keep holding off. But eventually it just wasn't getting any interest, and our sales were kind of down. And so someone sent me an offer on it for $20, and I was just trying to get things moving in our store. And I did decide to accept that offer at $20. I mean, we only had $1 into it. So I did accept that offer of $20 and sold it, and we got positive feedback on it. It was a very nice passport holder. And sometimes when your sales are low in your store, if you do accept a few low offers, that'll kind of grease the wheels of eBay, I've noticed, and will get things moving again on your store. Next up was a pair of actually they weren't brand new. They looked brand new, but they were not brand new. They had been worn, but they included the box. They were Ivanka Trump black patent heels, women's shoes. We got these at an estate sale. We paid $5.41 for them. They were $5 plus tax. And those sold for $40 even on best offer. And after the buyer had them for a little while, she did open a return on those, stating that they were a little bit too small. So we just recently got those back. We received them back in the exact same condition that we had sent them out in. We refunded that buyer, and we've since relisted them. They already have another watcher on them, so we're hoping to get those resold quickly. Next up was a lot of late 50s, early 60s racing programs, Texas racing programs that my husband got at a garage sale when he purchased a bulk lot of other racing memorabilia like collector's cards and things like that. This lot of 6 racing programs sold for $32.99. And we had averaged out his cost on those items as just 50 cents. Next up was a Pacific Giftware 4-inch resin Leatherface figurine from the movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We got this at the illicit item garage sale where we found the illicit item. If you want to check out that video, I'll link it in the description box below. But we had picked up a Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy figurine at this garage sale. And so when we were checking out, the guy checking us out saw that we had that Freddy figurine, and he said, "Oh, are you interested in horror items?" And we said yes, because horror items sell really well. And he said, I have a Leatherface figurine inside and I'll sell it to you for $1. Do you want it? And we were like, yes, definitely. So we got this item for $1 and it sold for $24.99, which was our full asking price. Unfortunately, we still have that Freddy figurine listed because, as it turns out, it was supposed to go with a red Cadillac that someone had been at the garage sale right before us and purchased. The guy running the garage sale told us. He was like, oh, it's supposed to have a red Cadillac, and he helped us look for it. And then he was thinking about it some more, and he was like, I think someone purchased that right before you guys got here. So Freddie and his Cadillac got separated. So we're just selling Freddie as a replacement part, but I'm sure someone will eventually come and purchase him from us. Next up was a lot of 3 small Longaberger baskets. Longaberger is a great brand to pick up. I have not checked the comps lately on the sell-through rate for those, if it's still as good as it used to be, but these small ones sold pretty quickly for me. I had picked these up at a garage sale. I paid $7 in total for all 3 of them, and they sold on offer to buyer for $31.98. Next up was an item that we got out of the storage unit purchase that we made. It was very unimpressive, but we've made tons of money on it with unimpressive items like this. This was a 2005 CIF Northern Regional Finals basketball program. It was in kind of ratty condition, and a lot of people might have thrown this item away, but my husband had an instinct about it, and he was right. This item sold really, really quickly. We listed it for $14.99 and it sold almost immediately for that price. And we had averaged out our cost of goods on this purchase and said that this item cost us just 23 cents. So definitely worth it. And the next item coming up was also from that storage unit, and it was also something that a lot of people might have thrown away. This was a Sesame Street's Elmo's Sing-Along VHS tape. It did not have a sleeve or a case or anything. It was just the VHS tape only. We tested it and it worked. And testing items like that is important, and I'll tell you why. We live in North Texas, and so it gets really, really hot and it gets really, really cold here. We have temperature extremes going either direction. But heat is something that damages things in Texas, I think, probably a lot more than cold. So I don't know how long these items had been in this storage unit, but I do suspect that they had been in the storage unit during a time period in which it had been very hot. And there were several VHS tapes in this unit, and we tested all of them, and a lot of them didn't work. And so it seems like they had been heat damaged. And there was a particular brand of VHS tapes that didn't work, and I think they were maybe Random House or something like that. I don't remember, but you just cannot you can't sell a VHS tape and count on it working. And if you can put tested in the title, that will definitely help your sale of the item, because, obviously if someone gets it and it doesn't work, that's going to be a return for you. So that is definitely something to consider. So this one sold immediately as well. Sesame Street is a VHS tape that sells almost always immediately for us. Sesame Street's a great VHS to pick up. We had paid 23 cents for this, and it sold for $9.99. So not a lot of profit there, but when something sells immediately and there's a couple dollars profit in it, I'm still gonna, take the time to list it. Next up was a vintage gold tone and rhinestone brooch. It has a sunburst design to it. It was very pretty. We got this at a garage sale for just 50 cents. And it sold for best offer of $21. Totally worth it. Like I mentioned earlier, we do sit on brooches for a while sometimes, and this one we did sit on for a while, but eventually the right buyer came along and we turned that 50-cent investment into $21. So definitely worth it. Next up was a lot of 5 vintage 1950s postcards from Mexico. They weren't written on or posted in any way, so they were new. We had gotten these in a bulk purchase of postcards from an estate sale. We paid 40 cents for these, and these sold for our full asking price of $15.99. I don't think we have any more of these vintage postcards left. I think this was the last one, and we've sold all of them. Next up was a Samuel Adams frosted pint beer glass. We got this at a thrift store. We paid $1.08 for it, and it sold for our full asking price of $18.99. Next up was a Banana Republic red merino wool cardigan sweater. We got this at the thrift store for $1.35, and it sold on best offer for $15.50. Banana Republic is a brand that not too many people pick up a lot, but we do like to pick it up if the style is good, if the content of the material is good, like this one was 100% merino wool. And we've found that if those two things are a positive on that, Banana Republic does sell well for us. Next up was a Direct Power Plus replacement universal battery for camcorders. We got this at the Vintage Treasures garage sale. I'm not sure it was called that exactly, but I'll link that one down below. We had purchased a couple of camcorders, or I don't remember, 1 or 2 camcorders at this garage sale, and we asked the guy if the battery was included with it, and he said no, but he went inside to look for it, and he couldn't find the one that went with that camera, but he did find this one, and he said, oh, you can just have it for free. So we got this replacement camcorder battery for free. It was never used, and it sold for $22.75 on best offer. Next up was another item that we got in the storage unit that a lot of people probably would have thrown away. I was just curious about it, and I was like, we're going to try to list this and see what happens, just purely out of curiosity, which a lot of times when we list stuff that seems like it's not worth our time, it's really purely just based on curiosity from me. I'm like, I want to see if this is going to sell. And that was this. This was an open 4-pack of green 50 question Scantrons. And I don't even know if schools, I seriously doubt schools use Scantrons anymore. But back in my day, after I walked to school uphill both ways, I had to use Scantrons to take tests, and you'd fill in the little things with pencil, not with pen, and that's how you would turn in your test, and then they'd run this through the Scantron machine, and that would grade your test. So, I don't know, apparently somebody's still using Scantrons, or people are collecting Scantrons, who knows, I don't know. But these Scantrons sold. I think I had them listed for $7.99, and we got an offer for $5.99, and accepted that. We were able to just stick them in an envelope and mail them. Did not make hardly anything on them, but you know, we paid 23 cents for them when you consider our average cost on that. So, you know, worth it, I guess. I don't know. I was just so curious and so surprised that they actually sold so quickly, because they sold really fast. Next up was a Paper Magic Group rubber Halloween brain head covering. We got this at a garage sale, and we listed it over the summer. I think we probably picked this up at a springtime garage sale and had it listed over the summer. I got a lot of lowball offers over the summer, decided to wait, and I thought, I'm going to wait and see if I get a higher offer before Halloween, and if it doesn't sell for Halloween, then I'll accept a low offer after Halloween. Well, that was the right choice, because it did sell for our full asking price of $33.99 right before Halloween, and we had paid just $1 for that at that garage sale. Next up was a really pretty Cynthia Rowley oatmeal colored hidden snap wool alpaca sweater that we had gotten in the Goodwill bins. This we paid $1.41 for at the bins that day, and it sold on offer to buyer for $29.58. Next up was another item we got in the storage unit, but this sale didn't work out quite as well as we had hoped. This was a set of 2 glass or crystal faceted taper candlestick holders. Like I said, we paid 23 cents, 23 or 24, depending on which item it was, because I was averaging out my cost and just trying to make my math work. But this one we paid 23 cents for, and they sold on offer to buyer for $13.58 very, very quickly. They did open a return, and they said that they just didn't like them. They said there was nothing wrong with them. They actually said that specifically. There was nothing wrong with them. They just weren't what they expected, I think is what they said. And so they returned them, and we've since relisted them. I don't know. I mean, they were not expensive candlestick holders. That's why I priced them at $14.99. Maybe they were hoping that they would get something very valuable for a good price, and were disappointed that they were, you know, more on the level of like I don't want to say dollar store, because I doubt they came from the dollar store, but that they were a less expensive version. You know, maybe they were hoping, oh, maybe these are Waterford or something, and it's, you know, I'm gonna get a smoking deal. I don't know. I'm totally speculating here. This could totally not be what it is. Maybe they just didn't like them, but you know, we priced them at $14.99 because that's kind of the quality that they were. So I think the buyer was very nice about it, and I really didn't have any issues with the fact that they returned them. It was not a big deal. We've relisted them. I just thought it was interesting. Next up was another item we got in that storage unit. This was a brand new with tags. The brand was Minichi, and this was a black patent evening bag. It had silver hardware. It was like a little envelope fold clutch purse. This, like I said, we paid 23 cents for, and it sold very quickly on offer to buyer for $12.68. I did say in the listing that it had a flaw, and you know, maybe that flaw would go away over time, which sounds kind of weird, but everything was really compressed into some of the bags in the storage unit, and where it had like a rope style shoulder strap that you could use or you could tuck inside the bag. Whatever the shoulder straps from the purse was laying on the black patent part of the purse, and something else heavy was laying on top of that. And whatever was laying on top of it was very, very heavy and compressed onto it. And it had created an impression of that strap into the patent leather. And we, you know, waited a few days, removed that, waited a few days, and it didn't seem like that impression of that strap was coming out of that patent. It actually wasn't leather, but was coming out of that patent. So I didn't know if over time, you know, giving it some more time, maybe putting it in a hot environment and letting it kind of retake its shape, if maybe that would make it go away. But I did list it as a flaw and explained that in a probably more succinct, professional sounding way in the listing. Anyway, that's what that flaw was all about. Next up was another two items from the storage unit that sold immediately, and this is definitely something you want to be on the lookout for, and these are vintage yearbooks. This was a 1980-81 El Toro Portola Junior High yearbook and a 1984 El Cerrito High School yearbook. So these were both from El Cerrito, California, and they were both from the same person. And they were both in pretty rough condition. You can see in the title of one of them, I actually have the word worn, and they both had signatures all throughout them. But usually that doesn't matter. People still want these vintage yearbooks. So I don't remember how much I had them individually listed for. You'll see that on the screen over here, but they sold together to the same person for a total dollar amount of $53.96, and we had paid just 46 cents for those. So, you know, once we found the yearbooks in the storage unit, that paid for the whole thing. Next up was a lot of 5 artsy crafts. It included 3 sticky mosaics, some scratch design sheets, and some dolphin crayons. We had found all of these in the Goodwill bins. We still have more of these to sell. We put together like a bunch of different lots, and we've sold a couple of them. I probably need to re-look at that and maybe consider lotting them together differently because they're not selling very fast. We had paid 67 cents for these in the bins, and they sold for $15 even on best offer. Next up was a vintage bottle of Escada cologne for men. We got this at the illicit item garage sale. We paid just 50 cents for it, and it sold on best offer for $130. Unfortunately, the buyer, who was very nice, did open a return because he said that the cologne leaked a little bit inside the box that we sent it. It didn't have a lid. It was a spray bottle, but it didn't have the cap, and we included that information in the listing. But I guess there was a little bit of seepage from the way it was laying inside the box. We did have it inside a plastic bag and then bubble wrapped and then inside of a box. But even within all of that, there was just seepage. And when he began opening the plastic, that smell of the cologne, as he described it, overwhelmed him and nauseated him. I mean, those are actually the words that he used. And he wasn't rude about it. He said, respectfully, it just nauseated me, and I don't think I like this cologne. It was overwhelming to me, and I'd like to return it. And he did not do it as an item not as described. He paid for the return, and of course we were very understanding. And like I said previously, when situations like this happen, we take it as a learning experience. So we definitely learned in this case on situations like that to tape up the top of the cologne and protect it in a little bit better way. We're going to double bag it better. And I also included a statement in the listing, that there may be seepage. We cannot guarantee against seepage because, there's no cap on it, and this is an old bottle of perfume. So in situations like that, we just try to learn from it. And luckily it was a very nice buyer in this situation, and I'm just glad that he was kind about it. Okay, next up was a vintage 1987 Jamina 12-inch plush electronic sounds and lights Godzilla toy. I don't remember exactly how it worked, but you would press its claw or something and it would roar and growl, and maybe its eyes would light up or something. But this is definitely an item you want to pick up if you see. We picked it up for $10 and it sold on best offer for $79.99. I think we had it originally listed for $99.99 and it sold for $79.99. The buyer said that it was going to go to either his wife or his girlfriend for a birthday gift, who was a Godzilla collector. Next up, I'll go over all of the collectible cards from my husband's personal collection that sold. This particular week, we sold 3 high-value cards. The first one was a Magic the Gathering Alliances card. This one was called Force of Will. This one sold for $91 on auction. Next up was another Magic the Gathering card. This one was from the beta set. Beta cards tend to be very, very valuable. This card actually was quite damaged, and we did disclose all of that. But I knew that out of these 3 cards, this one would go for the highest amount, even despite the damage, because the other 2 cards that we listed were in near mint condition. This card was called Vesuvian Doppelganger, and it sold for $374.69. And that one went through the eBay Authenticity Guarantee Program. And last up was a Magic the Gathering Unlimited card, and this one was called Royal Assassin, and this one sold for $178.51. And finally, I'll go over all of the collectible cards that sold that were valued at $10 or under. And this week we sold 4 cards for a total dollar amount of $35.96. And that wraps up all of our sales for the week of October 8th through 14th. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let us know by hitting that thumbs up button. And if you're not already subscribed, we would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to our channel. It is the thing that helps out our channel the most. And make sure you turn on the notification bell so you can be kept informed of all of our latest content. Thank you so much for joining, and we will see you on the flip side.